Saturday morning. I am Anthony O. Williams, and I will be doing most of the presenting today. We also have Christina Guzzi, and she's going to have opportunity to introduce herself in a moment. Um, if you are here for the math practices that develop critical thinkers and confident problem solvers, you are in the correct space this morning. Our workshop with you today is quite hands-on, meaning that you will be engaging in quite a few activities, and we want you to just relax and um, go for it. But while you're doing the different activities, always think, how can I use this with the students I work with? Because again, these are PDs, and we have to kind of make them a little more on the generic side. So oftentimes we may present something that you say, well, my kids, this may be too low or, not enough rigor. But I want to challenge you today. Think of how can you put that rigor in where an activity such as whatever we're doing can meet the needs of your students. And on the reverse side of that, there may be something that may be too advanced for your students. But again, think, how can I bring this down to the level in which my students would benefit from? And so we just ask you to be with an open mind. Today, we're going to also treat you as students to a degree in which you have to go through that productive struggle, much like our children will do. So oftentimes we may give you very vague instructions or, give you very little information because we want you to experience it from that aspect. So you will then know how to present it if you choose to in your classroom. And so we should have a lot of fun. This course has in the past received a lot of good ratings. People enjoy it because it is so hands-on. And the way the class will work this morning, it will start off with some, our heavier portion of the class. But once that's done and out the way, the remainder of the class is all hands-on, and you will be pretty busy enjoying yourself throughout the day. Christina is going to send you individual. She's going to send you an individual message, and you'll be using that information in a moment as part of our inclusion activity. And so with that said, I'm going to start sharing, and then I will formally introduce myself, all of that kind of stuff. You got that, Christina? Again, so if you are in the here to participate in the math, I was trying to move my pictures out the way because it's blocking my view. I'm sorry. Math practices that develop critical thinkers and confident problem solvers, you are in the correct place. Like I said earlier, I will be doing most of the speaking this morning. And then, so if you have a need to pose a question in the chat, you can do so, but send it directly to Christina or just put it in the chat. Christina will be the one monitoring that for the most part this morning. And again, if you could display your name that you would like us to call you or refer to you throughout today's session, if you could change your name on your screen, that would also be helpful. So I am Anthony Williams again. I currently serve as Assistant Principal EIS in local Region West now. I'm at 3 schools. I support 3 schools: Glenn Felix Elementary School, Glenn Felix Early Educational Center, and Clifford Street Magnet Elementary. And so Christina and I met about 8 years ago in a previous position that we were both in at that time. And as a result of working together, she moved on to PAR. And from that, she started inviting me to um, work with her on different workshops. And this was one that we started for parents initially. And Christina thought it would be a good idea if we tweaked it for teachers. So you could have these same strategies working with your children. So with that said, what else about me? And then I'll move on. I've been with the district for 21, 22 years now. I've worked as a teacher, literacy coach, instructional coach for literacy and math. I also served as a Title I coordinator at the school level. Then I moved on to the Parent and Community Engagement Unit. That's where I met Christina. And then I moved on to the assistant principal position. And so that's a little bit about me. Christina, would you like to introduce yourself before we move forward?
Sure. My name is Christina Guzzi, and I am a PAR consulting teacher. PAR is the department that offers this training and 23 others. We also offer personalized instructional coaching. So if you're ever looking to invite someone into your class to help you develop your math practices or whatever it might be, please do call on us. We're thrilled to be able to offer those supports to our fabulous LA Unified teachers. I want to just quickly echo what Anthony said, which is today is about you having some math experiences and exploring some big ideas. And don't worry if you see an activity we've done that doesn't translate well for your class. It's not about the activities. We're using those activities as a means to say, your math class needs to include some elements like play, some elements like productive struggle, some elements like higher order thinking. We're using the activities today to model those big ideas for you. So when you leave the class, walk away thinking, how do I incorporate the idea that making mistakes in math is okay? Math mindset is huge for a lot of our students. How do I set up situations where they're gonna have to engage in some really deep critical thinking? That's what we want you to leave with today. If you also get a cool activity to try, we're thrilled. And by all means, use anything we've given you today. But in case everything isn't a great match, know that our intent was to model those big ideas for you. Thank you, Anthony.
You're quite welcome. And so, thank you, Christina. I just want to do something we haven't really done a lot lately. If you would just put in the grade level or grades that you currently teach, that way we can, in the chat, and Christina will read them out to me, just so we'll kind of know where we are and try to share examples. You know, if it's some strange or a large grade divide in the activities that we're working with. So if you could do that, okay, I see first grade. Oh, that was my favorite grade I taught. And so
we've got fifth grade, kinder, first grade, eighth grade, 10th grade. So we've got a pretty wide scope today, which is great. That means we'll get lots of different perspectives. Please ask questions. Ask us for adaptation ideas if you really like one of the activities we do. But we'll keep that in mind as we are offering some explanations throughout the day. Thank you for that information.
Okay. And there is no sign in. Christina has recorded your attendance based on you joining the class this morning. Okay, where's my cursor? There we go. Okay, so
Real quick, Anthony, let me just remind them, I've put numbers in the chat. That is for an activity we're going to do in a minute. So if you're wondering why I sent you some random fraction or decimal point, it's got a purpose. We just haven't explained it yet. So trust me, I'm not nuts this morning sending you random numbers. All right. So this is just a reminder for us to tell you about coaching support, which I kind of did. If you're ever interested, you're always welcome to contact the department. You can find us through the LAUSD website, or you can go call the office and ask for an application, and we will get that process right away. So please know that at any point in your career, you are eligible to ask for coaching support. Okay, thanks so much.
So our agenda today is a pretty basic agenda. We've done our welcome. We're going to start with an inclusion activity. We'll discuss our outcomes. And then we're just going to have the first part of our presentation, lunch, second part of the presentation, and then we'll have time at the end for reflections and evaluation. And I'll mention it now just so you'll know. In order to receive your certificate of completion, your attendance obviously is required, and you will have to do the evaluation at the end of the classroom. And you'll be able to find that evaluation in the MyPLN where you signed up for the class, but it'll be in your
transcript.
Yeah, transcript. That's the word. Of course, this is Schoology, right? Okay. So again, I do want to encourage you all, if you have questions about anything we're talking about, ideal you want to share some input, it is all valued, and we would encourage you to share it with us. That makes it for a better day of learning from all of us. So please do share. Do not be shy. You can use your reaction buttons or drop them in the chat, and we'll monitor it and answer your question.
Anthony, your mic got weird all of a sudden.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Yep, that's a lot better.
Okay. I wish I knew where the mic was on this computer, because I think when my hand was blocking something. But anyway, let's keep it going.
Before you leave the slide, the agenda, don't forget to tell them about our break and our lunch and 30 minutes and all that good stuff.
Thank you. So our lunch today, we would like to offer just a 30-minute lunch. That would, let me back up. Our break. We should take a break, hopefully around the 10 o'clock-ish time. So realistically, somewhere between 9:45 and 10:15, we should be prepping to go to break. If you need to, like when the nature calls and you got to run to the restroom, just maybe throw something in the chat and run and do that and just join us back. That's not a problem. We understand that happens. Lunch should be around the 12 o'clock time, and I keep using that term should be. We try to keep it moving, but based on our discussions and any questions, we will go with the flow, but around 12 should be our lunchtime. And we, if it's okay with everyone, we'd like to offer you a 30-minute lunch. And then that way we'll leave 30 minutes earlier in the afternoon. If anyone has a problem with that and need the full hour, let us know. You can share with us now, and then we'll just, go ahead and have the longer lunch. But if the 30 minutes is okay, anticipate a 30-minute lunch break, and then we'll leave the session 30 minutes early.
We're getting some positives in the chat for the 30 minutes, so I think we're good.
Okay. Okay. We like that. Okay. So today, our work today is to explore the backgrounds on why students struggle with mathematics. And we're going to have discussions around that. We're also going to explore ways to help students gain thinking and reasoning skills using the 8 habits to develop critical thinkers and confident problem solvers. This was um, an attachment that you should have received with your confirmation and reminder for the class session. So if you can have that out, because we will refer to that um, throughout the entire presentation today. And we will give you a chance to look at it a little more in depth before we start using. We also want to provide strategies that use math in a fun way that keeps our students engaged. And also today you get to participate as learners. And like I said earlier, some of the things we're going to have you participate in are going to maybe push you a little bit. You're going to be like, hey, you didn't tell me enough what to do. But we'll get to that. There's a reasoning behind it. Are there any questions in regards to what we're going to work on today or the way our day should flow? Okay, I'm going to take silence as a no, and we're going to keep them with it. So, our inclusion activity. I'm going to switch screens right quick. It's just easier for me to do it this way. Okay, so I'm putting up what do we call it? Screen. Yeah, that's it. And I want to add an image. Where is my? Every time not Wellington, I work with Wellington so much. Every time,
Zoom.
that's it. Thank you, Christina. I've lost it every time Zoom updates something, and if you haven't used it, then you're at a loss of words. See, there was just one here, Christina. It's no longer here, so I guess I have to throw. Oh, there we go. So I am going to draw. Well, put it there, the number line there on the board. You'll be able to use your Zoom tools to help us write on this board. Christina sent each of you a number or something in a private chat. What I'd like for each of you to do using your Zoom tools is to place your number where you feel it should go on the number. Um, and so you put it where you feel it should go, and then we'll move on after everyone has done so. You can either use the text where it is a type, or you can write it using the pencil. So that's up to you. So I see someone use the star, and that's great too. But if you could share what your number is, so the rest of us would know.
0.75.
Is that the star?
Yes.
Okay, you got it, Christina? I see your name. Okay.
Why did I go quiet all of a sudden? Does that have make a mirror on your camera? Seriously, do you think I could start it over? Oh my god.
Okay, are that all our numbers, Christina?
We should have 7 numbers. And I just want to mention that someone put a question in the chat, Anthony, about are we going from left to right? So I don't know if you want to adjust that now or later.
Okay.
Just letting you know it's in there.
I know. Oh, thank you. I am going to say, yeah, we're going left to right. We'll just go that way. I will answer that.
He sounds like me. He sounds like the guy on Instagram. You know which one I'm talking about? The fat guy. I was like, no, you need to go over there. You can't go there without your husband. That's right. Hi, Clarissa.
So we have 5 there. There should be 2 others. Is there anyone who didn't get a number or didn't see their number?
Someone in the chat said, well, not someone, Martina said that she agrees with the star. And can you let me know what you mean by that? Did you have the same number?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, and yet that number was 0.75?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. So, Christina, could you add another 0.75 over the 0.75?
Yeah.
Okay. And those are in alignment with the star. Okay. 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 So, thank you all for starting that. Now, we were in person, or even in this situation. My first question to the class or to the group would be, do you agree with the placement of all of the numbers at this point? I saw one head say no. Something popped in the chat.
We have no in the chat.
Okay. Now, I would, at this point, once
Few no's in the chat.
a few no's in the chat, I would then ask a person who said no, they do not agree with the placement. And I would ask them, can you explain, tell me what you do not agree with? So someone who said no, could you tell me what you do not agree with?
Marie says in the chat that 3/4 is equal to 0.75.
Okay. Okay. So I would then give her the opportunity, and we don't have to do it here because it's a little trickier, but I would ask her, if we were in person, to put the 3/4 where she felt it should go and allow her that opportunity to move it. Okay. And then I'd ask someone else. Who else said no? They didn't agree with everything?
Louise said in the chat, maybe if you rotate the line around, let me see, I can't read the rest of it. Hold on. If you rotate the line around the midpoint, you can have a 0.75 map onto 3/4. He's a geometry teacher, clearly. He's saying
Okay. Right.
Wait, that's like way deeper thinking. Awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Tell-
Yeah. Geometry was
I see you're
initially a
assuming.
challenge for me back in the days.
I see you're
And so
assuming.
then
Are you
Elisa
talking
is
to
asking,
inferior
is
learning or
it of
superior
the
learning
inch
comprehension?
or is it the whole
And they should be
line?
like, oh,
So
maybe
we're
it's
ready, I
psychology.
think, Anthony, to start to get into those kinds of
Discussion.
conversations.
Okay. And so with this activity, you'll notice I gave you one instruction at the beginning, and that was to place your number where you felt it should go. Okay. And typically we have a larger group, you start to see things, on a much larger scale. But then when I start my questioning, my first question is always, do we agree with the placement of everything? And usually the answer is no, because someone will recognize something that they feel should be elsewhere. Now, I want to ask you all, what was your challenge about doing this activity the way I explained it?
Not knowing how long the line is in the chat.
Okay. Okay, not knowing how long the line. Okay. Anything else? And you guys can feel free to unmute.
No zero to start at. Is in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out where the zero would be. No midpoint, really just guessing.
Okay.
Not knowing everyone else's number.
So, but do you
Everything is a guess.
Okay, everything is a guess. Well, it's a guess until someone puts the first number on the number. Okay, so up until that point, so the person who puts the first number on sets the tone of where everything else has to go. Okay, and that has its benefits when students are using an open number, because then they're not, I use the term, they're not blocked in or boxed in to only having increments the way that I, as the teacher, chose for them to have. So this number line can be as long as you want it, based on where that first number went. And so it allows for students to see that just because the first thing that went on was the star. It said it was representing 0.75. And so, well, actually, I think 0.50 went up first. They were about the same time, I think. And so that started to dictate where everything else would fall. if we were going to continue manipulating this number. And so in doing something like this, we would keep working. If our goal was to get the students to get them all in the correct order, I would just keep asking that question. Is there something you do not agree with? That would be my question. I would not ask once someone identifies something they do not agree with, I would have them explain why they don't agree with it. I'm not looking for the person who may have put it there. I want to hear what the person who disagrees with it and let them explain why they disagree with it. And then I'll use that as my teaching point.
Anthony, your mic's being weird again.
Really? Okay, I'm looking at the picture. Okay, this is
At least for me. Maybe it's something.
No, it's me. This is my good computer too. So,
you sure?
I think so. But what I was saying is that so in leading the discussion, it's not about the person who did something who may have placed something incorrectly based on the other numbers. The discussion is going to be led by those who feel things are not in the right place. And we will do that because we want everyone paying attention. And believe me, if a person's number is called out that they have placed and someone else feels it's in the incorrect place, they're going to be they're going to start listening right away to see what went wrong. And we can have just discussions around that. Are there any questions about like this process from anyone?
There's a comment in the chat. What if everyone used decimals instead of fractions?
That would be fine. It's the same question would be asked. It would be posed. And usually, like I say, in a larger group, you would have seen more people with the same numbers, equivalent numbers, either through a decimal or with equivalent fractions, and they hopefully would have started lining up, and that would lead to that conversation around equivalent fractions or equivalent numbers and things of that matter.
And then someone commented in the chat, so students don't know who has what number.
Correct. Students will not know, unless they see someone write it up there and pay attention then. But from the beginning, the numbers are just passed out individually. And let me share with the way we do this when we're in person. So all I did, I created just a number line using just the computer. And it's just, I'm trying to see if it's showing a picture. Yeah. I just extended it across a whole bunch of pages, printed it out, and then laminated. But for our training purposes, because we were doing this on a regular basis, you'll notice that I added Velcro pieces just all the way across in no particular place. I just added them. And I took index cards and I put various numbers on index cards with a piece of Velcro on the back. And so participants are able to manipulate just by moving the cards off of the board. And we just go, continue that until we exhausted our time or we reached our goal point of doing whatever we do. Any other questions or comments about it? Can you think of another way in which this activity could be augmented to support your instruction in the class?
So I teach algebra, so I'm imagining that I could have a coordinate plane and have students place points without having the scale on the X or Y axis.
Love that.
And so, again, getting them to really show what they know, but your benefit is going to come through your discussion around what the students did.
And think about how revealing it is. Let me ask you a question from a different perspective. If we had put a 0 on here and you guys had lined up your numbers correctly versus 0, do I know if you have a deep understanding of number relationships, or do I know that you know where the number goes related to 0? That's all I know if I place the 0. But by giving you the freedom to create your own number line, I now know which students have a deep understanding of how these numbers work together. And so leaving it open-ended, yes, initially it creates that productive struggle because people go, well, wait, where's the start? All of that kind of question. But once one person, as Anthony said, places their number anywhere, and we know that number lines are fluid, right? Yes, in textbooks, we see it start at 0 and end at 100 and everything lines up neatly. But we know that a number line could start at 0.50 and end at 1.50, and that's still a section of numbers, right? So we want to get students away from thinking that everything has to fit exactly perfectly and start to expand their thinking to say these numbers work together. Yes, there's still a correct order, but we're going to determine that order. And that gives students the freedom to play with these numbers in some interesting ways and make connections. And as Anthony said, the power is in the discussion. For the person who said 3/4 is really 0.75, that's an amazing connection to make. Absolutely. Let's move that. Let's line those numbers up together. And now we can have a really rich conversation about equivalency. You see what I'm saying? So the open-endedness, we know it's uncomfortable for you. I get it, because we're not used to thinking about math except in parameters with correct answers and clear lines and equal spacing of hashtags and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't have to be that way. It also doesn't matter that these aren't all perfectly lined up. Yes, if we're drawing it for math purposes, it matters. Our spacing matters. But for a conversation about how numbers work together, if it's this far away and this far away, that's not imperative to the conversation. The part about that they're in the right order in relation to each other is what's paramount in this conversation. So we're just offering you an opportunity to think about playing with numbers in a more open-ended way and allowing students to really demonstrate how they understand number relationships. And so Anthony's question was, how can you do it in other ways? And Marie, I believe, had an amazing idea. She's an algebra teacher, so this probably makes great sense to her. But if you're not a math teacher and you teach in other content areas as well, you could also use this for a history timeline activity. What's the first event of the American Revolution? Let's line it up. Let's figure out how these activities go together. What's the first step in the establishment of the Mayan civilization? Let's put some dates and times and events in order. Anthony, I know you have a great language arts one as well. Do you want to share that?
Sure. I was going to mention like especially with our students who are learning to alphabetize. Just simply using an open number line for them to put words in alphabetical order, or even the ABC, the alphabet itself, for our younger students is another way you could do this. Something I used to do, I would take a sentence from one of our books and put each word on a different card and share it with students and have them see if they could create a sentence using those words. I would always have the capital word at the beginning, so that would be a starting point, and then something with punctuation, and then see if they can manipulate the words to make different sentences that still were that made sense or were comprehensible. So, it's just something to do in a way where the children will be active in expressing themselves, but yet you as the teacher can also do an assessment of how they're interpreting the information and being able to use it.
And think about, too, those 4 C's, that 21st century learning. Think about how many C's we were able to incorporate here. Were we doing some critical thinking? Were our students, if our students are given an activity like this, is there an opportunity for collaboration and communication? Is there possibly some creative thinking going on here? Yeah, we're starting a number line with 0.50. That's creative compared to how we see it printed in our textbook. It's not truly creative, but it's a different way of thinking about numbers than starting at exactly 0 or starting with 0 in the middle and having the numbers build around either side. We're giving students the creative freedom to decide how our number line today works. The other thing I love about this activity is you can do it again and again and again, because different students given different numbers are going to determine the structure of this number line in different ways. And you can continue to have those conversations so that your students do become very fluent in talking about and discussing number relationships.
And one thing I'd like to add, this is a nice activity where you could just do it as if you have a little extra time, either in transition, if you teach multiple classes throughout the day, like your secondary teachers, maybe you have one class, put the numbers up, and then you'll have the discussion with the class that comes in. And then next time you do it, you just reverse it and have, so everyone has the opportunity to go through the process. It's great for, at the end of the day, you may have a few extra minutes. Kids are ready to go home, but yet you still have 15 minutes. And this could be something you could do, because even if you dismiss the kids right away, the cleanup would not be very hard to have to do. So again, just think of ways you can incorporate something like this where you can have the discussion, because the discussion is where the big learning is going to come from in this activity. Are there any other comments or questions about this at this time? Okay.
Can I just offer them a tip for the rest of the day, Anthony?
Sure.
So your first impulse when you saw this and Anthony told you to put your number was, if your feeling was, they didn't tell me enough, I don't know enough, I'm not sure how to do this. We did that on purpose, not to be mean, not because we think you want to be frustrated on a Saturday, but we want to model for you that sometimes that discomfort forces you to get creative and forces you to collaborate and forces you to be a critical thinker. So we did that by design. So as we move through our day and we present various activities and ask you to try some things, and you find yourself thinking, they didn't give good directions. We did that on purpose. We designed it that way. So just trust us. This is a low stakes environment. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to ask questions. But we want to set up situations where you need to apply your math thinking, not where you're going to get the correct answer. We want to create opportunities for deep, rich, good math thinking. And finding the right answer doesn't always allow for that. Because the kids who know how to get the right answer don't do rich math thinking to try to get to it. They know how. And the kids that don't often will give up because they don't know how. So we want to create spaces where all of us are a little uncomfortable and all of us are a little unsure to even the playing field and force kids to engage and work together to figure out how to do the math work that we're offering to them. So let me just say it really clearly. If you find yourself thinking, Anthony and Christina didn't tell me enough, you're right. And we did it that way on purpose. So just breathe. It's all going to be okay. Just try it and give it a go. We promise it'll be okay.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this one. Oh, okay. Okay, so that was our inclusion activity. And so we're going to look at why students struggle with math. Pictured on the screen are two books that you may have seen around your campus. You may have them in your classroom library already. And we will give, do we still have the stock of these, Christina? Yeah, okay, and we will, the green book here, What's Math Got to Do with It? If you'd like, we will be providing you a copy. We can provide you a copy of this one. The other one is also another great book, and just a lot of information that comes in, taking our minds and going into why our people struggle with math, why our students struggle with math, why adults struggle with math. It all connects. But we're going to do a little reading this morning, and we're going to use a specific protocol for our discussion, and I'll go into the protocol a little later. Again, one of the resources that was provided to you should have been a copy of, it's just a few paragraphs from the book, What's Math Got to Do with It? And it's by Jo Bowler, who is a professor of mathematics at Stanford University. And she is a really well-received presenter, not just here in America, but across the globe. She's presented in lots of places. And we want you to have the opportunity to read that. And like I said, it should have been sent with your materials in the confirmation.
And I just dropped it in the chat, Anthony, as well. So in case you didn't print that, you can open it now to do the reading. You told them that they can have a copy of the book if they want it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that will come to you in school mail in the next couple weeks. If you definitely want a copy, please drop a yes or a quick note in the chat so I can take your name down. We know sometimes people have copies and so they don't want a second one. So if I don't hear from you, I won't send a copy. So just a yes in the chat works. Thank you. I'm seeing that come in. All right, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah. And so in here, we're going to start on Roman numeral page 16 and just read to page 20, Roman numeral page 20. It's one section that we're going to be reading, and it is the section with the title Mindset and Mathematics. That's the only section you're going to read. It's just that it spans over a few pages. And what I'd like for you to do while reading this, I want you to highlight, star, underline, whatever you want to do, things that stand out to you for whatever reason. They can stand out to you because it confirms something you thought. It could be new information, an eye-opening for you. It could even be something if you disagree with it. But just highlight it so you can refer back to it. Because once we do our discussion, we're going to ask each of you to provide us with that information, something from the article. Any questions on that part of how I want you to read your section?
Would you mind please telling us a page number again, please?
The page number?
Yes, please.
Okay, if you open it, it's Roman numeral page 16.
Okay. Thank you.
And we're going to start at, it says, it's closer to the bottom of the page. It says mindset and mathematics.
Okay.
We're just read that section all the way to, it ends on page 20.
Okay, thank you, sir.
No problem. Thank you for asking. Okay. And so we're going to let you all have time to read first and make your notations about things that stand out to you in the article. And again, for whatever reason they stand out to you, that's fine. You don't have to tell me why you did that at this point, but we do want you to have those ready for the discussion. Once we finish reading, then I'll explain the protocol that we're going to use for the discussion. Any questions? Any additional questions at this time? Okay, so we're going to give you 10 minutes, Christina, a quiet time.
Yeah.
To read and be prepared for our discussion afterwards. So I have no time showing my computer.
I have 8:58, so 10 minutes, 9:08.
9:08. We'll come back. So we're just going to mute ourselves and allow you that time to do your reading. And we'll start up in about 10 minutes.